it's gonna unfortunately be like 30-minute sessions. It makes it easier to upload anyways, so I don't really mind. I don't need to ask for a whole other thing just for that. But just be aware, we're gonna have to hop in and out a couple times. Alrighty, so let's look at the app. First, let me take a look at kind of what the code challenge was. If you don't mind a little bit of me just like reading that for a second, so that way I make sure we're kind of on track as far as you guys covering what you need. Oh yeah, there's like advanced deliverables. Let's not work on the advanced deliverables today. Robots rendered. Army. Cool. So we need to be able to like favorite some pigs. And then we'll call that the pig pen. I'm gonna make up my own little challenge, even though it's gonna use their stuff. If that's okay with y'all. Cool, and then we have to be able to delete a pig. Great. So basically what we gotta do, let's establish some goals here. So I'm gonna go to my notes, some goals here. We are going to need to, hey Justin, turn your mic off.
Okay.
We need to get some pigs from the back end. Okay, cool. This will be one of our tasks. Why did that go so much smaller? That's annoying. What else are we going to need to do? We're going to need to render all pigs onto the page. Cool. Then we're going to need to get favorite a pig, putting them inside of the pig pen. Cool. Then we're going to need to be able to delete a pig. By first, we're going to say delete a pig optimistically. And then that'll give us something to talk about. Let me think of other goals here. We're going to say this, delete a pig from database. And then maybe, if we're going for it, we can also delete a pig from, or just remove a pig from the pen. And then some stretch goals would be, okay, filtering pigs. Everybody got these goals written down? Cool. So, first thing is, let's go to, it's called Porkers. They called it Porkers. Oh, Porkers data is where you get the data from. Okay, so let's poke around first and kind of see what they set up for us. We can read the problem statement they have, although I'm also kind of going to ignore it for the sake of, hey, let's figure out how to pass this fucking code challenge. So I'm not going to focus too much on what they wrote. Instead, what I'm going to focus on is, let's see how we can do what we need to do. So let's look at what they have here, though. They have, in source, they have these components. We've got app. We've got hello world. I don't know why they left that in there. We don't need hello world. That was probably poor coding on someone's part, because usually that's the kind of thing you would delete. And we've also got a nav bar, which we'll definitely keep, which let's see what that looks like. I guess this is the nav. We can go ahead and look at our React dev tools. Whoops, I meant to go to components. And it looks like that is the nav right there. And inside of the nav, we just have a div, span, cool. Image, cool. So we don't need this hello world. Do we all agree with that? So let's go ahead, first step, let's just get rid of the hello world. We don't need that. And what's gonna happen when I do that? Failed to compile. Because now we're trying to import hello world right here. Cool. So I had to go in and I had to make sure that I deleted hello world because you can't call on something that isn't there, right? So now let's look at what we got here. Cool. Well, we don't need this. We're not importing our hogs because we're getting it from our back end, right? And now we got to get some stuff on the page. So first, if I want to, let's say I want to get stuff on the page, what would be a good first start? Daniel.
Talking about like the actual data, like the pig.
What's the next thing I'm going to do? It doesn't have to be like the next thing I do is make a fetch call. In fact, I would almost prefer that you think a little bit smaller steps than that. What's the first thing that I have to do next?
Like HTML elements, maybe?
Sure. So what? So I make a section here or something? Like that?
I like it.
So let's think about what I could do here. So what I could do here is I could make a section. We could call it, class name equals like pig section. And then here, I can do that fetch call and whatnot. But this is React. We want to make it reactive, right? Reacting meaning that we want to take advantage of these things that we have called components, right? So here we have a nav component where now all this code is lumped together because we put it that way, right? So now this is all lumped together into one component. So maybe instead of making an HTML element, we can make a component here, right? So let's call this component all pigs, right? And before we actually make all pigs, let's discuss what we want all pigs to do. What I want all pigs to do is I want all pigs to be just a container for all of the pigs that are found on the back end. I want it to be like, oh, here's all of the pigs that you could possibly have. Let's get that from the back end. And that's all that all pigs does. It just lists all the pigs. Sound good? Cool. So we made a component called all pigs. Let's go ahead and make a file here. We're going to call it, what am I going to call this? Based off of what I wrote here, what do I have to call it?
Allpigs.js.
So in the code challenge, they separated components and containers.
Okay, so you want me to do that now?
Cool. Yeah. I don't know if it makes much of a difference, but it did throw me off a little bit.
If you guys want to do it that way, that's fine. So I just deleted that. Cool. So
I have a question.
What I'm gonna do, yeah.
In the code challenge, did the original code render anything?
No.
No, right?
I don't remember.
I just know that I just looked at the code that was already there and I'm like, how do I structure this based off their structure? If that makes any sense. I saw some things I've never seen before. Like I said, separating containers and components. And I don't know. I just with the code the boilerplate they had was a little confusing.
Yeah, I don't know. We're not doing the exact code challenge, but let's just try and focus on exactly what we could do here in this case, because I don't have that in front of my face is the only thing. So for this lesson, let's do it this way. But then we can figure out that at another time. Maybe that would be a good thing to get some help on. Yeah. So here I'll do it in a containers component. So we'll say new file. Why don't we call it pigs container instead? That way it fits that nicely. Of all pigs. Cool. Call it pigs container. Is that a good name right there? Do I need to do anything else there? So I need my .js, right? Yeah. Cool. Great. So now I'm gonna go into my pigs container. Oh, oops. not pigs cantineer. And then we have to create a React. Do we want to use, let me ask you this, guys. What kind of component do we want this to be and why?
Well, every single thing in the code challenge is a class component, and that's where I struggled the most, figuring out the differences between them.
Okay, well, let's not just go by the code challenge for a second, because this is definitely something worth learning.
So as of right now, I think it's going to need to be a class component because we're going to have to set state.
Great, that's a much better answer. I like that answer a lot more. Are we going to have to set state inside of our pigs container? I don't think we are, actually.
Oh, because we're going to do pig cards that have the state in there.
Right, so I think that we're just going to show our cards. So we can actually just make this a function container, a function component, right? So what do I start all my components with?
Import React from React.
And I'm going to do it this way, just to show you guys, but and this is actually a good, actually I'm gonna go through the long way of showing you. So when you do import React from React, explain this line to me, James. What am I doing here? What is this and what is this? What is this one first?
The React component.
So no, this, I would say that the way that I would describe this thing, I mean, you could call it a React component. Well, it's not a React component, actually. What you're saying is, when I say import React from React, I'm setting this variable called React equal to this library that is named React. Does that make sense? So the way that you can actually think about this is, the way this import works is, if I don't have like a dot slash here, whoops, dot slash, what it's doing is it's actually looking inside of your node modules folder for the React library. So where's my node modules folder? I don't even know. Where is that? Cover? No, not ingest. Let's see. There should be a node modules folder somewhere around here. I just don't know where it is. I'm wondering if I installed it in the wrong place when I did npmi.
Mine's right under config, but it's like grayed out.
Yeah, you want it to be grayed out. I don't know why mine isn't there. I think I might have. I'm willing to bet that I accidentally installed it in the wrong folder, which is the folder above it. But if you look inside that folder, what you're gonna see is, if you look inside of that, you should see some sort of folder called React, right? And that's the library that you're pulling from here. And the syntax here, you're saying, if I don't have a dot slash here, import from that node modules folder, if that makes sense. Otherwise, import just imports from like a file name. Like it would be looking for, if I did this dot slash, now instead of looking inside of that node modules folder, it's, if this is in my containers, right? Then it's actually just going to look inside of containers for a folder called React, or a file called React. Either a folder called React or a JavaScript file called React. But yeah, so now we're going to go back to the syntax we had, where we're saying import React from React. And what this is saying is import the whole library, right? The next thing that I'm going to show you that's going to make that even less code is, instead of saying import React from React, we're going to do this thing called destructuring right here. So now what this is like saying is, think of React here as a library, and that library you can kind of look at like an object. So say you have this object here, and then you have something in it called component, and then you have like a function that represents all the shit this component does, right? So this is really close to what you're doing here. What you're saying is pull this key out of this object. That's what we're saying. It's not super crucial to understand that right now, but it's definitely worth exposing y'all to it. That concept is called destructuring. And it's definitely worth putting like an afternoon into, because it's something that like you use all the time and it's super useful. So anyways, import component from React. And then what we have to do is we have to make a function.
Hey, John, just a heads up, put a comma in after component, the component object.
I don't think you need that. I think that's if you're doing,
Oh, okay.
that's if you're doing this. So that's
Got it.
If you want to import the whole library and then also specify this variable called component, that's how you would do that. But you don't need to. You can just import component from there.
Awesome. Thanks for clarification.
Yeah, and we actually don't need to. I don't even think we need to import it, but yeah. So now we have to export default function, and now our function. When we have a functional component in React, what does it take in as an argument?
Props.
Yep. Beautiful. Great. And then what makes a component in React? What makes a function a component in React? What does it have to do?
It has to return an element.
Beautiful. Yeah, it has to return, I would call it like JSX code, but yeah, exactly. So, because remember, it doesn't actually have to return a single element. It could actually return, I think, a bunch of elements. Well, no, that doesn't, then it wouldn't be a component. Yeah, you're right. It has to return a single, you know, HTML-like element. So now what we're going to say is inside of our, oh, I didn't call this right. What is this function called? We're calling it pigs container. And then here, we're just going to say, all right, I don't think that works. So we're going to say, let's make it an H3. Here's fucking pigs. We're going to do, what is a, if I try to do, why is that? Something's wrong here. I don't know. I think it'll work. Pigs container is not defined. Oh, that's why. Oh, that's from somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't know if you imported it into your app.js.
Yeah. So how am I going to do this?
It'd be pigs container from, so it's in the containers folder.
So how do I get out of the current folder I'm in?
So it's gonna be .. /
Okay. And then
pigs.
containers.
Yeah.
Beautiful. React must be in the scope when using JSX. I have a feeling I fucked up my functional. Is there somewhere where I need to?
What if you just move app into the main folder system?
I could do that. I just figured I would try and show you how that file structure is working.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with doing it that way. It's mainly just, I just wanted you to understand like how these imports are working, because it shouldn't throw you off if somebody does, if you understand this, it shouldn't throw you off if somebody does a slightly different like file structure or something like that. And that's pretty important, not just for the code challenge, but also for just understanding it in general. Do I need to say, I need to have components somewhere in here, don't I?
You have to, so you do need to import React and not just the the component so that you could use JSX, like going back to the comma thing.
Yeah,
And
I put React comma component in it. It
Oh
worked.
yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, good call. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then you're going to do a function here, a functional component. Then
Yeah.
you're, as long as you're doing that, then you're good.
Yep, so there we go. So now let's just check to make sure that that worked. There we go. Here's some fucking pigs. Great. So now let me ask you a question. We want to fetch some pigs from the back end. Where are we going to do that and why? Are we going to do that here?
Probably want to do it. I think, isn't state always supposed to be at the top level?
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second, just to like solidify maybe the why there. It sounds like you understand it, but I'm not sure that everybody does. So just to make sure, yeah, whenever we have, oh, this is running slow. See if this works. It might not work. If it doesn't work, that's okay. Let me try to annotate more. I can't annotate. Oh yeah, I can. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's see if this works. Oh, it's beautiful. Okay. So let's say we have a component up here, right? Cool. Component with some state. Okay, cool. So in React, it's a lot easier to pass things, to pass state down to another component than vice versa. It's far easier to say, okay, I'm going to pass my state down to here. I'm going to pass my state down to here. I'm going to pass my state down to here. So what we try to do is make our components of components stupider. The more we go down, the dumber they become. In other words, I want this to track as much state as possible. So that way it's easier to, just pass information from here to here than vice versa. We're going to have to do a little bit of both in this case, although you technically don't pass state up, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. But the concept here is that, yeah, your outermost component is really what you want to be putting the state in most of the time, unless you have something like a controlled form or something like that.
Can I paraphrase what you just said to like make sure I'm understanding it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So basically what you're saying is for the component tree for your app, you should basically just have one state at the top.
Not necessarily. Like there's circumstances where you're going to want state in lower components. Like a really strong use case of that would be like a controlled form. So for example, inside of a form, maybe I have an input box inside of there, and I want to stop you from inputting certain things into that input box. So then there's really no reason why app needs to know about that, right? But in this case, we have pigs, right? So we have a shit ton of pigs, and we're going to have to, we know we're going to want to put some of these pigs in our pen, and we're going to just want some of them to be in all pigs. So it'd be nice to manipulate all that information from one place, rather than say I'm, let's think of a case in which we do it the wrong way, right? So let's say we have app, and then we have, let's say pig section, right? Container pigs, and then we'll make one for a pen, right? Cool. So let's say I make state in here, right? Well, if I make my state in here, it's a lot harder to, my pen needs pigs, and so does my pigs container, right? So both of these need pigs, right? But if I get pigs and I fetch them inside of here, and I get like my array inside of here, then that means that if I want to put some pigs into here, I'm going to have to go all the way up here and then over here. And that's really like difficult to do in React. Like they make that really tough because it's just not the way you're supposed to do it. It's a lot easier to pass if I have the state all my pigs here, like let's say pigs is an array. Whoop, whoop. Let's say my pigs is an array. It's way easier to just pass that on through to this guy right here to pen, and then I can also take that same pigs array and pass it on down to pigs. Does that make sense? Oh, whoops, I almost hit the wrong button.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're right. If you have the state on the pigs, I believe you cannot pass the state up to the app for the React.
Yeah.
That's why we keep the state up there to be able to pass to the pigs and the pen.
Exactly.
And the state, like I typed on the text, like keep the state low as possible, because if you don't need the state on the app, you don't have to. But if you need to use, like John say, if you want to use the state to the pigs and the pen, it's a good idea to keep the state up there.
Exactly. Thank you, Alex. Sweet. So now let's go back to doing some code. So this we all agree that, oh fuck, I have to figure out how to cool, okay, I can use my mouse again. So we agree that there's going to be no state inside of the container, right? Cool. So where are my pigs going to come from in my pigs container?
Props.
Right. Perfect. So now let's go to our app.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Just to go back to Alice's point, why wouldn't we want to put state in the pig container if it's the highest level container? Does app really need state?
So maybe I didn't explain this right, but the way that I was going to structure the app, and I suppose you could do it a different way, but the way that I was thinking is app is the highest component, right? And then from app, here we're going to have pigs container, right? I'm going to call it PC. And then here we're going to have our pig pen. I'm not going to abbreviate that one. Great. Pig pen. So what that means is that if I keep my state here in app, let's say I have all my pigs here, then it's going to be a lot easier for me to manipulate which pigs are going into pen and PC just based off of like, oh, okay, let me add like something to this pig that makes it a favorite or something like that, right?
Oh, I get you. Yeah. On the code challenge, I think you're all going to see it differently. You're going to see a container that contains what is in this case the pig collection and the pig pen. So just a heads up that there's going to be a bigger container.
A lot of times what you'll see is app will be up here. And then down here will be something like all bots, I think was what it was. So all pigs or something like that.
Yeah, it's just it's pigs page or bots page, however you want to think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the component hard to work with. The one
so that one they just it doesn't make too big of a difference. You just think about like an overall drawing of like, okay, you're starting with app up here, and then that app goes into like this would be pigs page or something like that. But then even inside of that, this would be your pig army, and this would be your pigs, all pigs, right? I can't remember exactly how the code challenge went. So, and I don't want to look at it too rigorously because maybe the instructors will watch this and kill me afterwards. So, not kill me, just be disappointed. But I think that's kind of roughly, that should give you the rough idea. Is anybody confused by that or anything? Cool. So let's get back to doing some code here. We're gonna run out of time fairly soon, just FYI. Ooh, that looks pretty. Great. So we have our pigs container. Now we need to get some state. So we've agreed that we're gonna do some kind of fetch to the back end. Where am I gonna do that? How am I gonna call my fetch? Why am I gonna use whatever I'm gonna use? Who can help me out here? I'm lost. I'm not really lost. But James, I need your help.
Need my help?
Yeah. James,
Um,
Daniel, Hannah, someone.
so I would say state equals an object that has
Sure.
pigs,
Cool.
an empty array.
So, yeah, so what he's saying is we want to start with having some state. So we're creating our state object. And then we want to have, okay, what are our pigs going to be stored in? Maybe we'll store them in
An
an array.
array.
Cool. It's not equals. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a key. Yeah.
Cool. Great. So now we have, and this is our default state, is an empty array. Cool. I'm going to call this all pigs. Great. So then how am I going to get my pigs from the back end?
Fetch request in component did mount.
Sure. Why am I using a component did mount here? I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and I think it would definitely be worth, going over why we use these lifecycle methods at all. Like, why not just make a function that does a fetch?
Isn't it so that it only does the fetch after the web page renders?
Yeah, exactly. So I got really tripped up when I was doing React. I got really tripped up on this because I thought that I needed to use like lifecycle methods all the time just to do basic stuff. But I think a really important concept about like these lifecycle methods is you're just doing them for like page loading events. Like, oh, okay, did this page update? Did this page load, right? Or did this page dismount or something like that? Not page, component, right? But yeah, the concept is, okay, as soon as this component mounts, I want those things to be there. So that means that we have to put it in our component did mount. I just want to kind of give some clarification there because I think it's really easy to think that React is like a shit ton of lifecycle methods when you don't need them. And I struggled with that a lot when I was doing my Mod 4 project. So, but yeah, okay, so we have a component did mount. I can't remember exactly how these are. Is it a function that returns a function? How does that work? Do I just call a function inside of here?
So you
I
do
think
this
it is
dot.
function.
Yeah, sorry.
It's a, oh yeah, it's, I think I could just call a function inside of here and it will run. Or somewhere, I actually forgot. It's been a while since I've written one of these.
Do you try to fetch, right?
Yeah, so if I want to do a fetch, do I just put it right there?
Yeah, you just do fetch
Okay, cool,
and then put the URL.
great. So we're gonna go to, localhost, and we're probably gonna cut out real soon here, but, and then I think I made the pawns. Cool, great. I added the images on there too, so haha. Great, and then we're gonna say dot then fonts goes to, oops. Jeez Louise. Then what goes here? Let's just make sure we're getting it first.
Console log.
Yeah, sure. So let's see if that works. I don't want it there, I want it here. Well, we got an error here. Blocked by course policy, oh fuck. I might have to change that in the back end, which means that y'all might have to change that in the back end. So let's see. Oh, I think I know why. I think I just have to restart my server because I think I did change it, but I never restarted my server. We'll find out. Sorry, guys. Something's wrong here. I don't know what this is. Something with a favicon. It doesn't look like it worked though. 9,000/hogs. Cool. I don't think it would be that, but we could try it out.
Do you have to add a parentheses after to parse the JSON? Or sorry, yeah,
Yep.
like invoke.
That's
Yeah,
what-
you got to
JSON.
invoke it.
Cool. We got it. Bam. I'm just going to ignore that favicon error because I'm pretty sure it's not important. Yep, that's what it was. Thanks, Jay. I called you Jason because that was a .json. Thanks, Mike. How much time do we have left? We have less than a minute, just FYI. But I'm going to restart it real quick. It actually makes it nice because then I get like smaller videos to upload and it doesn't take like 3 hours to upload a video. So I'm just going to go ahead and end it now and start another one in the channel.